I thought I was just overtraining because this is what I coach people in. And so I was like, oh, there's just something that's not quite right. So I kind of just self-diagnosed and cut back the intensity and kind of kept going for a while. And it was okay, but it wasn't really coming back online. And at the end of that appointment, I just happened to say that sometimes I felt like my breathing issue was because my diaphragm didn't move the way it normally moved. And he said at the very end, well, let's just do an abdominal ultrasound just to see. And it was the ultrasound that found the first anomaly, and then they said, well, we better do a CT scan. And it was 3 hours after the CT scan that they called me and said, you have cancer in your abdominal cavity. And I was like, what? My mom's had breast cancer twice, and she has the gene mutation BRCA1, and I had done the BRCA1 test, and I found out 2 weeks before my CT that I was negative. They suspect that my appendix burst 2 to 5 years ago, and that's how the whole thing got spread throughout my abdominal cavity. A high school friend of mine that I hadn't spoken to probably since graduation day, 1985, saw my blog and wrote to me and said, hey, I work as a nurse in anesthesia. I know these cases. I'm in them with Dr. Foster. You really need to come see him. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. It's good to hear from you. It's really cool. The surgeon in Seattle seems really cool. And she kept saying, no, you at least need to come have a second opinion with him. Like, no one can beat his outcomes. No one can beat his, low complication rate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Being part of such a great team in an anesthesia department and knowing Dr. Foster so well and how successful these surgeries are and how wonderful he is at them, I just really wanted to encourage him to look into having it done here, knowing his family was here and what the recovery is like, and just wanting that support system for him.
It's a therapy that we give after the conduct of the surgery, which is the most important thing, taking out all the tumor and treating the microscopic cells that are left behind. And we find that having heat or hyperthermia up to 108 degrees is also cytotoxic to cancer cells. And when you combine the chemotherapy with the heat, they're synergistic. His tumor was an appendix cancer, and it was a specific subtype called pseudomyxoma peritonei. It's a low-grade tumor. Also, it can be broken down into a subvariant called disseminated peritoneal adenomucinosis, and that's a mouthful, so we all use an acronym called DPAM. So very, very rare, but we see them with a fair amount of frequency because we offer the therapy that most patients with appendiceal cancer need. The prognosis is very good for these low-grade tumors, with over 95% of these patients going well beyond 10 years with their diagnosis.
I've already talked about Dr. Foster and how amazing I think he is, but really, like, every step along the way, everyone has been so awesome, from especially the nurse anesthesia group who got prepped me that morning, and like all the nurses and all like the PTs that came in and saw me, and just everyone has been like so fantastic. I couldn't say enough about the program.